I have a select amount of keywords that I love using repeatedly that are getting me repetitive, high level results. And I'm also starting to become known for a particular style. So I'm going to share with you some of my favorite keywords, favorites, and I tend to utilize it a lot, especially when I'm doing in studio shots that just need a little bit of pizzazz, and it's fluted. Right? Like fluted, essentially, you will see like fluted glass or fluted wood. Essentially, it's kind of just like those ridges. I find that they make images look a lot more luxurious very, very easily. Let me show you a couple. Right? It's just a soap bottle as well as the lighting, but look how much the fluted adds to it. Image very minimalistic, but we also have this fluted glass that just elevates the image as well, as opposed to just essentially it being just a plain podium. Next, we have one that I utilize in almost every image that I take, right? Light and shadow. Shadow specifically, really dynamic shadows. You could do soft shadows, you could do contrast, hard contrast shadows. But shadows, you want to make sure to call out shadows in your images. I'm going to show you a couple. So this one here is a high contrast shadow, but essentially it's just a model holding a product. But look how much more interesting this is. Look how much more luxurious this is. This could be like a Chanel ad, right? Or a high-end diesel ad or something like that. Like utilizing shadow in very specific ways will give your image a lot more interest. Here it is, but this one is a low contrast, right? It's softer, but it's still adding a ton of interest. On the internet or on social media in the last 10 years, you probably have heard of golden hour, right? They talk about golden hour all the time. It's the type of lighting that you get as the sun is going down, right? It's soft, diffuse, it's extremely pretty. It kind of has like this yellow golden sheen, which is why they call it golden hour. But a lot of like high-end photographs are taken during that type of light. It's like natural lighting that's also very luxurious. And it makes pretty much any image even more interesting. Here's an example of golden hour. And then I also took it up a notch by having the golden hour stream in through the blinds. So you can think about that as you're creating your own prompts. Where's the light coming from? And is anything impeding the light, or is the light going through anything? That makes your image look a lot more interesting. Also, you can utilize it just dead on, right? Where you're getting the light coming towards the camera. That tends to make an image look more cinematic, more luxurious, more real. Even wondering like how are we getting these like photorealistic results? That's something that I cover in a course. I teach people how to get photorealistic images that they can use for their brand visuals and marketing assets. And I have a course that will walk you through step by step, right? It's a bunch of modules and it will show you everything from your brand positioning and strategy to art direction to creating in MidJourney to doing editing in Photoshop, using AI tools or editing in MidJourney. And now I just added in a ChatGPT module, but it's kind of step one before you even learn how to get to this high level art directing. It's just teaching you the basics of being able to create images that you can use anywhere for your brand. So now going into the next keyword. Podium, right? Like you see a lot of images, particularly beauty images, where the product will sit up and it's elevated on some sort of podium. And it's just a really great way to draw attention to the product, especially if the image itself may not have a ton going on. It might be very minimalistic. A podium plus some type of fabric is always a good combo to get something that looks very, very luxurious, very fast. A lot of times I like to utilize water surrounding a podium, as that is a bit more visually arresting. I want to create images where you have groups of podiums and different items sitting on different podiums. It's very architectural, brutalist type of vibes, and can make your image look a lot more expensive. The next keyword is stone. And when I tell you I overuse stone, probably I just love having a ton of extra texture, natural elements in my images, especially since I focus a lot on contrast. I find stone is such a great contrast for some of the unconventional models, unconventional spaces, and unconventional products that I'm working with. But stone is really, really amazing. And it's one of those things that instantly makes your image look more expensive. And when it comes to stone, you can also make sure to include things like metal next to it, and you can put some patina on it. That would also make it look more real and more expensive. You probably heard of many interior designers always talking about patina, patina, patina. That's essentially just like the aged metal, right? Once the metal goes through the oxidation process after being touched all the time, So that mixed with stone gives you a really high-end image. And number two, when you utilize stone, it doesn't always have to be smooth. Broken stone, I feel like, naturally broken stone or on purpose broken stone, makes an image look even more luxurious, right? So that's something to think about. Now, here is another big one, reflection, right? You want to think about making sure your products, not only do they have shadows, but they might also have a reflection depending on what the material of the product is. So you want it to reflect off of the surface that it's sitting on. A lot of times I like to use either a glass surface, water as a surface. You can use marble as a surface. These in-studio shots, another way to make it super interesting, if there's nothing going on besides the product, is adding in a reflection with a bit of glow. Look at reflection. I'll see some more. Here's reflection here sitting on some like liquidy metal water. Straight up water here on concrete. That's another great way to do reflection. Water on concrete product. Easy image that looks high end. In mind, if any of your images include night shots, like fashion shots, night shots, street shots, and they're at nighttime, you want to make sure that the street also has a bit of reflection as well. That makes the image look a bit more real. Also keep in mind, if you're utilizing reflection over water, make sure that the reflection itself is a bit distorted, right? Like sometimes if the water has ripples, the reflection is going to be more distorted. If the water is smoother and calm, there'll just be slight distortion, but that's something to think about when you're utilizing reflection, and you want to double check for the photorealism. Arches, I think we're at like number 7 already, but next will be arches. And there's many ways you can do arches. The 3 particular ways that I'm going to look at is one, shadow, right? Like you can have the shadow showcasing the arch, which is a really cool and unique way, as opposed to just a arch that is in the construction of the image. You can have a close-up where the arch is part of the detail of the image. Like, for example, this is a shelf, right? Where the arch is a part of the actual shelf, right? So you have a close-up with the product, with the arch right there. You can also have the arch as part of the architecture of the overall space. Here's another one, the arch mirror. And if you look at this image, you'll see quite a few of the things that I mentioned already that I love to use. You have the arch mirror, you have stone, you have fluted glass, we have some gold metal with some patina. Cool, I made these beautiful images, but what am I going to do with this? What you're going to do with this now is take this image and slot your product in there. In my newest course that I just dropped, on these ChatGPT workflows that essentially allow you to get as close to one-on-one product replications as possible with AI right now. So you be able to take your beauty products or your fashion products, your wellness products, whatever it is, and put it into images that look like this, into lifestyle photos on a model, things like that. So this is the basics of it, right? Learning how to create these AI worlds will allow you to create a whole set, and then you can slot your image, your actual product, into those scenes. Utilize rust in a couple different ways. Here you utilize rust for the space, right? Like this vase is sitting kind of like on a rusty floor, like having these elements that feel very much like a part of nature, and then putting in a beautiful product, particularly a product that should not be in that type of environment, creates contrast and will automatically create a more luxurious image. I also find using rust to describe a type of tone of the image will give you an interesting color grading that's warm, but also dark and moody, right? It's not super overly red, but it's really warm, has a lot of warm undertones, and it can give you some really interesting shots. This one I utilize in almost all of my images, unless I'm going for something super clean and modern, but it's film grain. That little 35 millimeter film grain that makes images just look so much more real. It helps get rid of that like AI sheen. And also too, like if it's not being captured well enough as you create MidJourney image, you can always go in Photoshop and use a like noise overlay that kind of mimics that film grain, and you will get some like really phenomenal results. Here's another example of that. Mix this one also with some shadow. As you can see, look at these results. Now imagine this was your jewelry brand. You can replace and put your own earring or your own necklace on this model utilizing those ChatGPT workflows that I talked about. And how high-end is this shoot? And here's another example of a shot like this utilizing film grain. Okay, this is the final one. I might have to do a part 2 to this because this is getting kind of long, but is Surreal, right? Surreal essentially is just creating images that look like they've been captured in a dreamlike state, right? So something that you might see while you were sleeping, like a large man walking around holding a handbag, right? And they're walking on the planet Mars. It's just something that's a bit absurd and something that would get you to do a double take because it's a bunch of things put together that normally shouldn't be put together. So look at this, right? This is an amazing beauty editorial shot. I did a surreal collage here. This could be a whole video in itself, like how to utilize the mixed media of photorealism as well as things like and embroidery and all of those kinds of things in MidJourney to create really interesting, unique images. Interest you, let me know in the comments, and maybe I will put together a video on that. Other example, this one is a bit more darker, utilizing a lot of black and snakes, like bringing in animals, always super fun. I'm going to do a video on unconventional models. Animals will be a part of it. I am obsessed with unconventional models.